Mason died inside before he even turned 20, but no one noticed. He smiled, he responded, he pretended, but on the inside, he had already given up. Given up on becoming someone, on having worth, on having a purpose. Because when life just keeps dragging you down, there comes a point when you stop trying to rise up. He thought his name was just that, Mason, a common name, an ordinary guy. Nothing about it screamed destiny. Nothing about it shined. Until the day everything fell apart. And it was right there at rock bottom that he heard for the first time in his life that there was a calling in his name. And at that moment, Mason realized he wasn't made just to survive. He was made to rise, to build, to transform. Because sometimes the invisible is just someone waiting to be awakened. And the one rejected today is tomorrow's leader, the boy without a voice. Now, he carries a word that can change lives. This is Mason's story, but maybe it's exactly the story you needed to hear today. Mason didn't want attention. He just wanted to go unnoticed. Being ignored felt safer than being remembered for the wrong reasons. The truth is he had tried to be someone, tried to be seen, tried to do things right. But every time he got back up, life made sure to knock him down again. Absent family, harsh voices, closed doors. With every "you can't do it," the world added another brick to the wall building up inside him. Until he stopped trying, stopped caring, started to believe that maybe there really wasn't anything special about being Mason. Nothing noble, nothing remarkable. Just a name, just a label, just another number in the crowd. He was moving on autopilot, waking up, breathing, surviving. But inside he felt like something had been lost, something he couldn't even name. It was like being in a crowded world, yet feeling completely invisible. But what Mason didn't know, what no one knew, was that on the other side of the silence, a word had already been spoken over him. A word that came from above. A word that didn't depend on his worth, not on performance, not on anyone's approval. A word that simply chose him. It happened in a small place. No crowd, no stage, nothing fancy. Just a quick chat, an unexpected moment. And someone looked at him and said without hesitation, "The Lord is with you." Mason almost laughed. He thought it was one of those lines you hear all the time, so much that it loses meaning. But something about the tone of that voice felt different, as if they knew something he didn't, as if they had seen something he couldn't yet see. He stood there, didn't know what to say, but inside something stirred. For the first time in years, he didn't feel so alone. There's a part in the Bible, in Luke chapter 1, where an angel appears to a young girl named Mary. She wasn't anybody special in society's eyes, just a regular girl in a forgotten town. But the angel showed up and said, "Rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you." Then he added, "Do not be afraid, Mary, you have found favor with God." She hadn't done anything big, no great accomplishments, no medals, but she was chosen. Not because she was perfect, but because the purpose already had a destination and her name was in it. Just like Mason, he didn't fully get it in that moment, but those words stuck with him. And for the first time, he started to ask himself, what if I'm not just another nobody? What if my name carries more than I was taught to believe? What if everything I've been through was just preparation for what I was called to build? He still didn't know the answer, but something inside him, something ancient, long forgotten, was starting to wake up. In the days that followed, Mason couldn't get that phrase out of his head. The Lord is with you. It was simple. But every time he whispered those words to himself, something inside him moved. It wasn't emotion. It wasn't just a fleeting moment of excitement. It felt like for the first time someone had turned on a flashlight inside the darkness he carried. And in that light, he began to see things he had never noticed before. He started to remember how as a kid he used to sketch out imaginary designs in his notebook. How he'd say things no one really understood, but they made sense to him. How even when he stayed quiet, he felt like something out there was waiting for him. But the world had been good at burying all of that. And Mason had believed for a long time that dreaming was dangerous. That feeling too much was weakness, that being different was a flaw. Until one day he read a verse. Yeah, he wasn't big on reading the Bible, but something drew him to it that day. Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 15. It was about John the Baptist. An angel was speaking to his father Zechariah and said, "He will be great in the sight of the Lord, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even from the womb." Mason read that line 3 times. Great and filled. He will be great because he will be filled. And it hit him. He had always thought greatness came from what you achieve on the outside. But right there it was. Greatness begins from the inside. It's not about fame, degrees, money, or stages. It's about being filled with something real, filled with vision, with courage, with compassion, with faith, with a fire the world can't put out. And then he thought about his name. Mason, he'd never really paid attention before, but the meaning of his name was builder. That hit hard. Life had broken so many things inside him. He thought he was just a permanent, unfinished project. But what if he was made for exactly that? to rebuild, to raise up, to construct. Maybe his name wasn't ordinary. Maybe it was prophetic. Maybe it was exactly who he was meant to become. And then another memory came back. Mary. When the angel spoke about the child she would give birth to, he said, "He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High." Mason looked at all of that and felt that even as an ordinary guy, there was an invisible thread connecting all those words to who he was becoming. Mary, John, Jesus, all of them heard something before they became what they were called to be. First comes the word, then comes the process, then the purpose. And Mason was finally starting to understand. He wasn't born to be invisible. He was born to carry something only he could carry. Because his name wasn't a mistake, it was a sign. When you start to wake up, when you start to believe that maybe there really is a purpose inside you, life will test you. And with Mason, it was no different. The more he thought about everything he'd been feeling, the more fear started creeping in. What if it was all just in his head? What if he was just trying to force meaning into a life that didn't have any? The old voices came back. You won't make it. You're not enough. Builder of what? You've never built anything. And the worst part, he started believing them again. One night, alone in his room, Mason looked in the mirror and said softly, "Maybe I'm pushing too hard. Maybe I should just let this go." That was the moment he almost backed out, almost disappeared again, almost convinced himself that dreaming was just too risky. But in that silence, a memory came, a simple sentence, something Mary said to the angel after hearing everything that was about to unfold. "I am the Lord's servant. Let it be to me according to your word." She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know what was coming next. She just chose to say yes. It wasn't a comfortable yes. It was a yes with fear, a yes without a map, but still it was a yes filled with faith. And it was that same night that Mason did something he had never truly done before. He responded, not to anyone else, not online, no big speeches. He just closed his eyes and said with conviction, "If there's a purpose in me, let it happen. If my name really carries something, then I won't run from it anymore." It was a quiet act, but heaven heard it, because a real calling doesn't start with spotlights. It starts with surrender. That was the day Mason stopped running and started building. He didn't have a full plan. He didn't know how or when or even where to start. But one thing he knew for sure, the first brick in a life of purpose is a yes. From that point on, everything began to shift. Slowly, yes. With struggles, yes. But now he wasn't alone anymore. Because when you say yes to the calling, heaven starts building with you. And for the first time, he didn't want to be someone else. He wanted to be exactly who he was created to be. Mason, the invisible one who said yes. The ordinary one who chose to carry something eternal. The broken one who decided to start building, even with shaking hands. Today, Mason isn't famous. He doesn't have millions of followers. He hasn't stood on the stage of any big conference. But if you look into his eyes, you'll see something different. Peace. Clarity. Purpose. The same boy who used to walk the streets with his head down, thinking he was just another nobody, now walks with confidence, even if he doesn't know exactly where the path will lead. Because now he knows who he is, and when you know who you are, everything else falls into place. Mason didn't become someone else. He just stopped running from who he was always meant to be. A builder, someone who turns ruins into foundations. And that's why today he lifts others, not with grand speeches, but with presence, with truth. With a sentence he carries wherever he goes, "You're not here by accident." He says it to young people who are thinking about giving up, to adults who carry trauma like chains, to ordinary people who feel like their time has passed and that it's too late, but it's not. Because if Mason could rebuild from nothing, then no one is beyond the reach of purpose. The Lord is with you. His name is no longer a burden. It's a legacy, and the one who was once invisible now reflects hope for those still hiding. The one who was once rejected is now a voice for the unheard. The one who once thought he had nothing now delivers something eternal with every word he speaks. And you? Maybe you're still in the silence. Maybe you're exactly where Mason once was. Broken, hidden, unseen, waiting for someone to say something that finally makes sense. So let me tell you this, your name carries something. There is a purpose inside you that no one can erase. You are not a mistake, not a number, not leftover. You are part of something greater, and all you need now is to do what Mason did. Say yes, not to others, not to the internet, but to yourself, to your own story. Close your eyes now if you can take a deep breath and repeat with me. Let it be fulfilled in me according to the purpose. That's it. The rest starts now.